In the darkest years of the Cold War, there was one aircraft that symbolized a terrifying reality for America's adversaries. High above the clouds, flying silently across vast oceans and frozen continents, this aircraft carried the power to strike anywhere on Earth. It could remain in the air for more than a day, travel across entire continents without landing, and deliver weapons capable of changing the course of history. Soviet radar stations watched the skies constantly, knowing that if conflict ever erupted between the superpowers, this aircraft would likely be among the first to appear on their screens. It was not the fastest bomber ever built, and it did not rely on stealth technology. Its true strength was something far more intimidating: endurance, reach, and the certainty that no target on the planet was truly out of range. The aircraft was the B-52 Stratofortress, and for more than 70 years it has remained one of the most powerful symbols of American strategic air power. Stay with the story until the end, because the B-52 is not just another military aircraft. It is one of the most remarkable machines ever created. Built during the early years of the Cold War, it became the backbone of America's nuclear deterrence strategy, capable of delivering devastating strikes anywhere on the planet. While many aircraft have come and gone over the decades, the Stratofortress has endured, flying longer, carrying more weapons, and serving longer than almost any other combat aircraft in history. Even today, generations after its first flight, the B-52 continues to patrol the skies, a reminder of a time when the balance of global power depended on the reach of strategic bombers. To understand why the B-52 became so important, we need to go back to the early 1950s, when the Cold War was entering one of its most dangerous phases. The United States and the Soviet Union had both developed nuclear weapons, and tensions between the two superpowers were escalating rapidly. Military planners on both sides understood that if a nuclear war ever began, the first hours of the conflict would determine everything. During those early years, long-range bombers were the primary method of delivering nuclear weapons. Intercontinental ballistic missiles did not yet exist in reliable form, and submarines capable of launching nuclear missiles were still being developed. Strategic bombers were therefore the backbone of nuclear deterrence. They had to be capable of flying enormous distances, penetrating enemy air defenses, and delivering weapons with devastating power. But the Soviet Union presented a unique challenge. Unlike conflicts fought during World War II, where targets were often located relatively close to friendly bases, Soviet territory stretched across thousands of kilometers of land. Many of the most important military installations were located deep inside the country, far beyond the range of most existing aircraft. If the United States wanted to maintain a credible nuclear deterrent, it needed a bomber capable of traveling farther than any aircraft that had come before it. This requirement led to one of the most ambitious aviation projects of the era. The U.S. Air Force approached the Boeing company with a clear objective: design a strategic bomber capable of flying enormous distances while carrying heavy nuclear weapons. The aircraft would need to operate at high altitudes, travel at high speeds for its time, and remain airborne long enough to reach targets on the other side of the world. The engineers at Boeing began working on a series of designs that gradually evolved into something revolutionary. Early bomber aircraft had relied on propeller engines, which limited their speed and altitude. But by the early 1950s, jet engine technology had advanced enough to make a new kind of bomber possible. Instead of propellers, the new aircraft would use 8 powerful jet engines mounted beneath large swept wings designed for long-distance flight. The design that emerged was enormous. The aircraft featured a wingspan wider than many commercial airliners of the time, and a fuselage capable of carrying massive payloads of bombs or missiles. The cockpit was positioned high above the nose of the aircraft, giving the crew excellent visibility during long missions. But what truly set the aircraft apart was its range. With aerial refueling, the B-52 could theoretically remain airborne for extremely long periods, allowing it to travel across oceans and continents without landing. This capability was critical to the strategy of nuclear deterrence. American bombers needed to be able to reach targets inside the Soviet Union, no matter where they were located. When the B-52 first flew in 1952, it immediately demonstrated capabilities that astonished aviation experts. The aircraft was fast for its size, capable of flying at high subsonic speeds while carrying enormous payloads. Its long wings provided excellent efficiency for long-range missions, allowing it to stay airborne for many hours at a time. Just as important, the aircraft was built with adaptability in mind. Engineers designed the bomber so that it could be upgraded with new weapons, improved electronics, and more advanced navigation systems as technology evolved. This flexibility would prove to be one of the reasons the aircraft remained in service for decades. As production began, the B-52 quickly became the centerpiece of the United States Strategic Air Command, the organization responsible for maintaining America's nuclear bomber force. Under the command of General Curtis LeMay, Strategic Air Command operated with extraordinary discipline and readiness. Bomber crews trained constantly, practicing long-range missions and complex flight operations designed to prepare them for possibility of nuclear war. In many cases, B-52 bombers were kept on continuous alert. Some aircraft sat on runways with their engines ready to start at a moment's notice. Others flew regular patrol missions carrying nuclear weapons, ensuring that even if enemy missiles destroyed American bases, retaliatory bombers would already be airborne. This strategy was known as nuclear deterrence. The idea was simple but powerful. If the Soviet Union knew that American bombers could reach any target on Earth and that a devastating response would follow any attack, the risk of starting a nuclear war became far less attractive. And at the center of that strategy was the B-52 Stratofortress, an aircraft designed to guarantee that no enemy could ever feel completely safe from American reach. But the true power of the B-52 would become even clearer in the decade that followed, as this enormous bomber proved capable of adapting to new missions, new technologies, and new conflicts, transforming itself from a nuclear deterrent into one of the most versatile combat aircraft ever built. As the B-52 Stratofortress entered service during the early years of the Cold War, it quickly became clear that the United States had created something far more than just another bomber. This aircraft represented a completely new level of strategic reach. It was not simply designed to attack targets near the front lines. The B-52 was built to cross entire oceans, penetrate enemy territory thousands of miles away, and deliver weapons powerful enough to alter the course of global conflict. At the heart of this capability was the aircraft's extraordinary endurance. Powered by 8 jet engines and supported by aerial refueling tankers, the B-52 could remain airborne for extremely long periods of time. During training missions, crews practiced flights that lasted more than 20 hours, navigating across vast distances while maintaining precise coordination with refueling aircraft. These missions required incredible discipline and concentration from the bomber crews. Pilots, navigators, radar operators, and weapons officers all worked together in a tightly coordinated team, ensuring that the aircraft remained on course even during complex long-distance operations. Inside the aircraft, the crew operated in a unique environment designed specifically for long missions. The cockpit was located high above the nose of the aircraft, giving pilots a commanding view of the horizon during takeoff and landing. Behind them sat the navigator and radar navigator, responsible for guiding the aircraft across continents and oceans using advanced navigation systems. In the lower deck of the aircraft, another crew member monitored defensive systems designed to protect the bomber from enemy fighters and missile threats. Every position inside the B-52 was critical. Strategic bombing was never a one-person job. It required a highly trained crew capable of operating complex systems, while flying in some of the most demanding conditions imaginable. During the height of the Cold War, these crews trained constantly. Strategic Air Command maintained one of the most rigorous operational tempos in the entire U.S. military. Crews practiced long-range navigation, aerial refueling, high-altitude bombing techniques, and emergency procedures designed to prepare them for the worst-case scenario, a nuclear conflict with the Soviet Union. In those years, the B-52 was not just an aircraft. It was a cornerstone of America's nuclear deterrence strategy. One of the most remarkable aspects of this strategy was something known as continuous airborne alert. Beginning in the early 1960s, certain B-52 bombers were kept airborne around the clock as part of operations designed to guarantee a retaliatory strike capability. Even if enemy missiles destroyed American bases in a surprise attack, bombers already flying the sky would still be able to respond. These missions were known as Operation Chrome Dome. During Chrome Dome patrols, B 52 bombers carrying nuclear weapons flew predetermined routes along the edges of Soviet airspace. Some aircraft patrolled over the Arctic, while others flew across the Atlantic Ocean. Each bomber maintained contact with command centers while remaining prepared to change course instantly if orders were given. The message behind these patrols was unmistakable. No matter what happened, the United States would retain the ability to respond. For Soviet military planners observing American bomber activity, the existence of these airborne patrols created a powerful psychological effect. Even the most successful surprise attack could not guarantee safety from retaliation. As long as American bombers remained airborne and ready, the balance of nuclear deterrence remained intact. But while the B-52 was designed primarily for nuclear missions, the aircraft soon proved capable of much more. As the Cold War expanded into regional conflicts around the world, the Stratofortress began demonstrating its versatility in conventional warfare. One of the most significant examples came during the Vietnam War, where B-52 played a major role in long-range bombing campaigns. Flying from bases in Guam and Thailand, B-52 crews conducted massive bombing missions over Southeast Asia. These operations required precise coordination between aircraft, navigation systems, and support forces. The bombers often flew long distances before reaching their targets, releasing enormous payloads designed to disrupt enemy supply lines, destroy fortified positions, and support ground operations. The scale of these missions was extraordinary. Each B-52 could carry tens of thousands of pounds of conventional bombs, making it one of the most powerful conventional strike platforms ever deployed. When multiple bombers operated together, the resulting bombardments could cover vast areas of terrain. Despite being designed for nuclear deterrence, the aircraft adapted effectively to this new role. Its long range allowed it to reach targets that were inaccessible to smaller aircraft. Its massive payload capacity meant that a small number of bombers could deliver enormous firepower, and its high-altitude flight profile helped protect the aircraft from many ground-based threats. Yet even as the B-52 demonstrated its effectiveness in Vietnam, the Cold War itself continued to evolve. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, new technologies were beginning to reshape strategic warfare. Intercontinental ballistic missiles had become operational, allowing nuclear weapons to travel between continents in a matter of minutes. Submarines capable of launching nuclear missiles from beneath the oceans added another layer to the nuclear deterrence strategy. Many observers believe that these new weapons might eventually replace strategic bombers. But the B-52 proved remarkably resilient. Instead of becoming obsolete, the aircraft continued evolving. Engineers upgraded its electronics, improved its navigation systems, and adapted it to carry new types of weapons. Cruise missiles, precision-guided bombs, and advanced targeting systems allowed the Stratofortress to remain relevant even as military technology advanced. This adaptability was one of the greatest strengths of the B-52 design. Aircraft that had first flown during the early 1950s were still operating decades later, equipped with modern systems that their original designers could scarcely have imagined. The bomber that had once been built for nuclear deterrence had become a flexible platform capable of supporting a wide range of missions. And as the Cold War continued into the 1970s and 1980s, the B-52 remained a constant presence in the skies, a symbol of American reach, endurance, and strategic power. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Stratofortress was not just how powerful it was when it first entered service. It was how long it would continue flying. Because long after many of its Cold War contemporaries disappeared from the skies, the B-52 will remain in service, proving that one of the most enduring aircraft ever built still had a role to play in the modern world. By the 1970s, the B-52 Stratofortress had already proven itself as one of the most important aircraft in the arsenal of the United States. It had flown thousands of missions, carried nuclear deterrence across continents, and demonstrated its power in conventional warfare during the Vietnam War. Yet what truly made the B-52 remarkable was not just what it had already accomplished. It was how adaptable the aircraft continued to be as technology and global strategy evolved. Many aircraft are designed for a specific role and slowly fade into history as new technologies replace them. The B-52 was different from the very beginning. Engineers had built it with the flexibility to evolve. Its massive airframe provided space for new electronics, new navigation systems, and new weapons as they were developed over the decades. As Cold War tensions continued through the 1970s and 1980s, this adaptability allowed the Stratofortress to remain one of the most valuable assets in the American military. One of the most important upgrades came with the introduction of air-launched cruise missiles. Unlike traditional gravity bombs that require the aircraft to fly directly over a target, cruise missiles could be launched from hundreds of kilometers away. These missiles were equipped with guidance systems that allowed them to fly at low altitudes, following terrain and navigating precisely toward their targets. For the B-52, this capability dramatically increased its survivability. Instead of penetrating deep into heavily defended airspace, the bomber could launch its weapons from a safe distance. The missiles would then continue toward the target independently, avoiding radar detection by flying close to the ground. This development allowed the B-52 to remain a critical component of the United States' nuclear deterrence strategy even as Soviet air defense systems became more advanced. During the later years of the Cold War, the Soviet Union invested heavily in radar networks, interceptor aircraft, and surface-to-air missile systems designed to protect its territory from strategic bombers. Massive radar installations stretched across the Soviet landscape, while interceptor fighters stood ready to respond to any unidentified aircraft approaching their borders. But the B-52 adapted to these challenges. By carrying cruise missiles and other advanced weapons, the bomber could remain outside the most dangerous defensive zones, while still delivering its payload with devastating precision. In this way, the Stratofortress continued to play a vital role in maintaining the strategic balance between the superpowers. At the same time, American engineers continued improving the aircraft's internal systems. Navigation equipment became more accurate, allowing crews to fly complex routes across thousands of kilometers with extraordinary precision. Electronic warfare systems were upgraded to help detect and counter enemy radar threats. Communication systems allowed bomber crews to remain in constant contact with command centers, ensuring that orders could be transmitted instantly during critical moments. These improvements turned the B-52 into a platform that could evolve with the changing nature of warfare. While newer bombers such as the B-1 Lancer and later the stealth B-2 Spirit began entering service, the Stratofortress continued performing missions that few other aircraft could match. Its long range, enormous payload capacity, and proven reliability made it an invaluable part of the United States Air Force. Another reason for the aircraft's longevity was its incredible durability. The B-52 was built with strong and robust airframe designed to withstand long missions and harsh conditions. Over time, the aircraft became known among crews as one of the most reliable bombers ever constructed. Maintenance teams developed extensive expertise in keeping the aircraft operational, and many individual bombers accumulated thousands of flight hours over the course of their careers. In fact, some of the B-52 aircraft still flying today were originally built during the early years of the Cold War. Few military machines in history have demonstrated such longevity. But beyond the engineering achievements and strategic capabilities, the B-52 also represented something symbolic. During the Cold War, it became a visible reminder of American power and reach. When B-52 bombers appeared in the sky during training exercises or international operations, they carried a message that was impossible to ignore. These aircraft could travel across oceans, remain airborne for extraordinary lengths of time, and deliver powerful weapons anywhere in the world. For allies of the United States, the presence of the Stratofortress represented reassurance. For adversaries, it represented deterrence. And throughout the decades of geopolitical tension between East and West, that deterrence played a crucial role in maintaining the fragile balance that prevented direct conflict between the superpowers. As the Cold War moved toward its final years in the late 1980s, the strategic landscape of the world began to shift. Political changes inside the Soviet Union, economic pressures, and diplomatic negotiations gradually reduced tensions that had defined global politics for nearly half a century. Yet even as the Cold War approached its conclusion, the B-52 remained in service, still flying, still adapting, and still demonstrating the extraordinary durability of a design created decades earlier. What had started as a nuclear deterrent bomber in the early 1950s had evolved into one of the most versatile and enduring aircraft ever built. And the story of the Stratofortress was far from over, because even after the Cold War ended, the aircraft would continue flying conflicts across the world, proving that sometimes the most powerful machines are the ones designed not just for a single moment in history, but for generations. By the time the Cold War finally began to fade in the early 1990s, the B-52 Stratofortress had already become one of the most iconic aircraft in military history. For nearly 4 decades, it had been a constant presence in the skies, standing as a powerful reminder of America's ability to project force across the entire planet. Many aircraft built during the early years of the Cold War had already disappeared from service, replaced by newer technologies and more modern designs. Yet the B-52 remained. In fact, it was about to enter an entirely new chapter of its story. As global tensions shifted and new conflicts emerged, the Stratofortress proved that its role extended far beyond nuclear deterrence. During the Gulf War in 1991, the aircraft once again demonstrated its extraordinary capabilities. B-52 bombers flew long-range missions from bases thousands of miles away, striking Iraqi military targets with massive payloads of conventional bombs. Some of these missions were among the longest combat sorties ever flown. B-52 crews departed from bases in the United States, traveled across oceans to reach the Middle East, delivered their weapons, and returned home in flights lasting more than 30 hours. The endurance of both the aircraft and its crews highlighted something remarkable about the Stratofortress. Even decades after its first flight, it remained one of the most capable long-range strike platforms in the world. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, the aircraft continued supporting operations in conflicts across multiple regions. New technologies allowed the bomber to carry precision-guided munitions, transforming it from a large area bombing platform into a highly accurate strike aircraft capable of hitting specific targets with incredible precision. Modern targeting pods, satellite navigation systems, and digital communication networks allowed B-52 crews to coordinate closely with ground forces and other aircraft. In some missions, the bomber could remain airborne for extended periods, acting almost like a flying artillery platform, ready to strike targets quickly when requested by troops on the ground. This ability to adapt to new forms of warfare ensured that the Stratofortress remained relevant long after many people expected it to retire. And perhaps the most astonishing part of the B-52 story is that the aircraft is still flying today. More than 70 years after its first flight, the Stratofortress continues serving in the United States Air Force. Engineers have repeatedly upgraded its engines, electronics, radar systems, and weapons capabilities, allowing the aircraft to operate alongside far newer technologies. In fact, many military planners believe the B-52 could remain in service well into the middle of the 21st century. That means an aircraft designed during the early years of the Cold War may ultimately fly for nearly a century. Few machines in history can claim such longevity, but the B-52's true significance goes beyond its remarkable lifespan. It represents something fundamental about the Cold War itself, a period when technological innovation and strategic thinking shaped the balance of global power. During those decades of tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, the ability to project power across vast distances became one of the most important elements of military strategy. Strategic bombers like the B-52 ensured that the United States could respond to threats anywhere on Earth. Combined with missile systems and submarine forces, these aircraft formed part of a larger deterrence strategy designed to prevent nuclear war by making the consequences of aggression unmistakably clear. In that sense, the Stratofortress was never just a bomber. It was a message that the United States possessed both the technological capability and the strategic reach to defend itself and its allies across the globe. When B-52 bombers appeared on the horizon during training exercises or international operations, they carried with them decades of engineering achievement and strategic planning. Even today, the distinctive silhouette of the aircraft, its long wings, 8 engines, and powerful presence in the sky, continues to symbolize American air power. And perhaps the most remarkable part of the story is that this legendary aircraft began as a bold idea during the uncertain early years of the Cold War. Engineers at Boeing were tasked with creating a bomber capable of traveling farther than any aircraft before it, carrying the most powerful weapons ever built, and ensuring that no enemy could ever feel completely out of reach. They succeeded. The B-52 Stratofortress became the bomber that could reach anywhere on Earth. And in doing so, it became one of the most enduring symbols of American innovation, strategic strength, and determination during one of the most dangerous periods in human history. Because sometimes the machines that define an era are not the ones that appear briefly and disappear. Sometimes they're the ones that keep flying, decade after decade, reminding the world of the extraordinary ambition that created them.